This is podcast 44?
We're getting to the point where we've done so many where I don't even know anymore. I believe it's 44, yeah. I think it's
right.
44. What an eventful week we had, Mother.
Yes, it was busy.
With moving Michael out, Penn State fraternities, which was a nightmare. I mean, once Michael's on, hopefully next week, we'll have to talk about that.
You just had to move him out. I had both in and out.
That was... Guys, do yourself a favor. Don't go into a fraternity. It's just, I've been telling everyone this week that I was at the gym, I said, it's such a shame because it's such a beautiful house, and then it just gets destroyed by frat kids.
They usually are pretty nice, or they were one time very stately mansions that families lived in.
One of those houses, I mean, it's just a giant L, but, I mean, I would love to, with all the HGTV I watch, I walk in there and I'm like, we can have a nice studio here.
Well, it wasn't always like that. There were maybe 3 or 4 bedrooms, on each side, and they were giant ones. Yeah.
I'd like to see what the original house was like, because I think if I were to guess based on how it's designed, I think that whole backside that Michael's in or was in, I don't know. I should know my brother's fraternity, but I don't know what it is. Sigma Pike.
No,
Sausage
it's
Fest,
Alpha Pi. Alpha Pi Delta or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But
APD.
My guess is that whole back hall is an add-on after the house, because you can see where it kind of separates. But
yeah. Well,
so,
they had to turn all those big bedrooms into dormitories. Yeah. So
either way, it's a shame because it's such a beautiful house, and then you go out, like they have this beautiful backyard, and then it's just destroyed, just beer cans everywhere, graffiti all over the fences. I'm like, oh, guys, I have to say this though. The ground, this was amazing to me because I don't know how you do this. Bathrooms are one thing, but the ground was so sticky that if you were to throw a ball and like try and roll a ball, it wouldn't go anywhere.
Not the ground, the floor.
The floor,
inside the building.
It was disgusting.
Because outside it was just a mud pit.
Yeah.
So it just went from bad to worse, but yeah.
So that's why Wednesday's video was late, because we didn't get back till 8-ish, I would say. I don't even remember. It was such a blur.
Yeah.
I fell asleep a little bit. I got a little nap.
Here's the thought. If you want to stop the spread of diseases in school, forget the vax and buy them all mops and a bucket of water.
Yeah,
okay?
It feels like it. Guys, I wish I took pictures. It was unbelievable, but I would have felt like I was scared they were going to kick Michael's ass for me taking pictures.
Oh, yeah, really? It's not allowed.
Yeah,
like Secret Service of the frat community coming out and stealing your camera.
Other than that, the rest of the week's been pretty quiet. Mom's going on vacation by the time this comes out. Her and Dad celebrating.
We don't like to say where we're going.
We don't have to.
We don't want to be rushed at the airport by all the fans.
Yeah. When everyone's, Is that Chris's dad?
Yeah. Chris's dad.
The fear is like when we're on episode like 500, Dad has to do it or whatever. Dad doesn't have a choice at that point. But
yeah, he should do it. I don't know why he doesn't.
I don't know.
Have you asked him?
Yeah, but Dad's always like, I don't know.
Yeah. I got nothing to talk about.
We can talk about anything. But he'll do one if...
Bring one on with your brothers one time.
Yeah, we'd have to do a sports one for Dad to be on.
Yeah, you could do it.
Or cars. I need a car guy. Anyone who's a car guy who wants to do the podcast, let me know. Someone who's really into cars. Well, I'd ask Dave down the street, but I feel like his time's just so filled. I don't think it would be worth his time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe we.
Unlike me, who has nothing else to do all day.
Well, you have a vacation to go to. So Mom's not here. We're gonna have to. Next week's gonna be all vacation stories because you're gone from Monday to Friday, right?
Yeah.
So, if you don't get a single story,
I don't expect a lot of drama.
If you don't get a single story out of 3 days, 4 whole days there, I'm gonna be pissed.
You never know. I gotta get on an airplane twice. I could be one of those people that had the fist fight with the flight attendant because she wouldn't let me put my overhead bag.
2-year-old.
all I gotta hear is you can't put your overhead bag above. That's a trigger for me. Let me tell you.
I don't blame you. Flying, everyone's been saying traveling. Oh, I was watching a whole thing on. Tom Segura's podcast last night, Your Mom's House.
Yeah.
Great podcast for those of you that haven't seen it. But it was this lady who had to be 500 pounds. She was complaining about like how planes haven't adjusted for plus size people. It is so delusional.
Yeah.
These people, but her and her husband combined make 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're demanding that they give you as many seats as you need.
Yeah.
That's their new push. And they don't care that everybody else has to pay for those seats. They shouldn't have to.
I didn't even know that there were seatbelt extenders.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing. They do a great job at hiding those then.
No, I knew about those.
I've never known
I knew about those. Yeah, really. I'm aware of those.
Turns out Mom used to be 600 pounds, lost all the weight. This is her Bowflex body.
People are going to say, keep going, lady. Keep going.
Yeah. Keep it moving as you're elbowing everyone on the way down.
You're not there yet, lady. No. Well, I mean,
that's how I put a fire under your ass.
Yeah, really.
The one guy that's like, oh, I gotta lose weight. The air stewardess threw the extender at me.
Right. Well, to their credit, I know some people that are overweight, but they pay for 2 seats or they pay for a particular seat because now everything costs money.
Right, but don't you think that I'm hoping that if you're paying for 2 seats, that's kind of the mindset of, hey, I gotta change my lifestyle here. You would think.
Maybe, but here's the thing: they regulate everything on those airplanes, right? 3 ounces, and everything's a security risk. Each seat is allotted a certain weight, right? Yeah. If you start going over those weights and start piling more people on, that's a security risk with the weight on the plane.
And when we had Mr. Greta over, our conspiracy guy, he was telling us about how he was on a charter plane, basically, like a small plane. Yeah. Remember they said he pays for like first class, but the plane's only...
It's all... Yeah. They got to weigh you in the plane.
They have to weigh you. And they say, you're going in the back. And Mr. Greta's like, what?
Yeah, they got to even out the weight on the plane. Yeah.
That's funny. But anyway, besides that, minor news, without going into anything, today was the coronation for the royal family, right? Now, I have a question.
Coronation. Is that what you said?
I speak in American.
I thought I said coordination.
I speak American.
They coordinated the coronation.
The coronation. Yes. Coronation. So my question is, and I don't have any articles.
As in corona, as in COVID. That's what the coronation comes from. Corona, which is crown, which is the COVID virus because the crown.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's where that came from. The crown because it's shaped like a.
Corona is a term for crown shape because it has a spike.
Is that Latin?
Yes.
Spanish? What is that?
I don't know. It could be Spanish, derivative of Latin, but.
Yeah, but so how does it work? So, coronation was today.
Yes.
Which, for those of you Americans that don't know what that is, that's basically when the royal family gets essentially inducted into the royal family as like, this is the new
Not
head.
Inducted, you get anointed, meaning it becomes a religious ceremony as well.
It's kind of like the British Pope.
No. Well, like I guess so, because he is the head of the Anglican Church, but yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, but just like not, but it's like a, sorry, English people, but it's kind of like a British version of, it's like fake, because they're not really.
No, it's not fake. It
is though, right?
Well, I mean, a lot of the responsibilities of the position have been taken away over the years or passed to somebody else.
It's like a stripped down Pope.
But stripped down version. But you could say that about our Pope. No, yeah, they're head of the church still. They have influence in what they're supposed to do and not do. There's rules and regs.
So my question was, Henry and Meghan Markle are out of the family, or however that works, but they still show up to everything, and it seems like what has he lost in leaving the royal family? Because I'm so confused, and I thought he was completely cut off.
Well,
they were like, hey, get out of here.
I think they are no longer working royals. So what does that mean? I don't think they're entitled to any money other than what they get from their father's personal money, the king's personal money. He has been stripped of all his duties, so that he was head of certain regiments because he had been in the military. Right. You get certain, like as the Duke of Sussex, you get certain perks being there. You get to attend events, or you get there's probably money involved, I don't know, patron sponsoring and things. So it doesn't have that anymore. So he was there because he's still his father, and his father was becoming King of England. Right. I believe.
So he's there as. So I guess that's my question: is he there as the son of the King?
Yeah.
Or is he there as just another bystander? Oh no! So sorry. So he's there as the son, but he's not part of the royal family anymore, right?
Well, I don't know. He's not a working royal. That's the term they kept using. Technically, if God forbid something happened to the oldest son in the family, who knows, right?
They'd still put him in?
Technically, Harry is next in line to the throne with his son.
You wouldn't bypass
daughter.
with his son? Like if he's out.
I said if Prince William, who is Harry's brother, and his son, George, and children, for some reason are killed in a plane or whatever, which is why the previous queen was very annoyed with them when they all traveled together. That's a no-no. You can't do that anymore. You have to travel separately from your children because that's the line of the monarchy. So if for some reason they all die in some tragic accident or terrorism, Harry is next in line to the throne. And his son and daughter after that.
Wow, so it would go father, son, grandson, and then to the other son?
Only if the grandson and the family were wiped out. So the line of succession right now is Prince William is next, then his son George.
Really? So then George and
then his daughter Charlotte, and then his younger son Louis.
Really? I would have thought that it would go, and that's if he didn't leave the family, or if that is like, let's say you never left the royal family.
Well, I don't know how it works if you're no longer a working royal. I don't know if it's ever happened, to be honest, but there must be some rule. If they're assuming nothing's going to happen to William and his children, you got 4 in line right there. But if, God forbid, something happened, the next in line would be the other son and then his children. Wow. That's how Elizabeth became queen. She was never supposed to be queen. Her father had an older brother, and he's the one that left. He abdicated the throne because of the British actress, sound familiar? Wallis Simpson. And she was a divorced woman, and at the time, if he married her, they put pressure on him to give up the throne, and he did. So the next in line was his brother. His brother had 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret, and she all of a sudden became the next in line to queen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that's how that worked.
Yeah. That's why she was never really trained to be a queen. She didn't have special schooling or anything. Nowhere, right? They didn't expect it. Who would think that would happen? And all of a sudden, her father, who, if anybody's seen the movie The King's Speech, that was Queen Elizabeth's father. It was written about him. He had a speech impediment. He stuttered.
Really?
Yeah. So he had to work with a trainer because now all of a sudden he had these speeches all the time. He was freaking out. So
that was back when the monarchy meant something, right?
Right. Well, that was right after World War One, and then right before World War II.
Right, because Elizabeth was there for World War II.
Right. And because her father died at a young age, I think he had lung cancer, she became queen at 20-something. So her son was just a baby, man who was just made king now. So her reign was 70 years. His is not going to be 70 years because he's in his 70s now. I wonder
if we'll ever have, I'm sure time will tell, but I don't know if we'll ever have someone that reigns 70 years again. That's insane.
It could happen if, say, William dies and his son takes place at a young age. He could reign for a long time. But one of the stories, I don't know if I brought up a story, but I saw it because I thought you might mention the coronation. There's a lot of apathy towards the monarchy now. It's like 60% of the people still support it.
Oh yeah, there was a video today. I guess there was a Liverpool match or something, and they're saying everyone in the crowd was chanting like "shoves the coronation up your ass" or something like that.
She's lovely.
They were chanting it.
Lovely.
I was like, wow. But yeah, the royal family doesn't have as much power. That was just a figurehead. I think people are kind of caught onto the fact that they're basically paying people just for having a bloodline.
Well, they don't have power, but he has influence. Right. And as long as you have the majority, like anybody else, as long as you have the majority of the people supporting it, and that's why he's trying to strip down a lot of the things. The big deal is the money with these people.
Yeah.
Because they're already very wealthy just by the land that they own, and it generates revenue and whatnot. But a lot of taxpayers don't want to pay it. And
yeah, it makes sense.
True to everybody else, they have a lot of non-Brits now in that country. They've had a huge migration.
It's almost like a reverse reparation, right? You're paying them for their family. That's really it. They say the influence, but what influence does the monarchy really have anymore?
Well, I'll tell you this. When 2 of the women, like Kate now and the woman that died, Princess Diana, they were the #1 photographed women in the world and are. Anytime they wear an outfit, it sells out. So there's a huge financial influence that she has when she buys designers. That's why they try to wear only British designers. So she's like the ambassador of British designs, and what she wears is important. Not just her, but all of them. Her specifically because she gets photographed so much, and she's young. And
which one is this?
That's Kate. That's William's wife, the tall brunette, who's as skinny as can be. So everything looks fabulous on her. And, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that a lot of people idolize, even American girls. I watched the Princess Diana wedding when I was a little girl, or teenager, I guess I was at the time. She's near Aunt Susan's age. We got up at 3 a.m. and watching it on TV, the wedding in England. I'm sure Aunt Sue did it for the coronation, but I did not. Yeah. But yeah, they have a lot of influence. Put it to you this way. If you get rid of the royal family, what do you think of when you think of the UK?
beans and toast.
Nothing. I mean, I don't mean to be insulting to them, but I think they underestimate the identity that group of people have to the rest of the world. And I'm laughing because the throne or the chair he sat on in the coronation, it's a wooden chair, 6 foot tall, back, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think that chair was built in like 1200 something,
That's
1266.
insane. I always love stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so
just a wooden box.
The time that was, I mean, think about it. Our country is less than 300 years old.
I know. Isn't that wild?
And he's sitting on a chair that's older than our nation existed.
That's so wild to me that he literally sat on his great grandfather's.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because the monarchy, for those of you who remember your history, like,
the hell are you trying to say?
You who took AP your history.
Yeah, how'd I do in that class, Mom?
It wasn't a success. You aced it, baby. There was a yes.
For those of you wondering, I failed it.
No, it's not true. That's not true. There's a succession, but then you had a civil war. Then they brought in William and Mary, as in the university, and they were not direct lines, so you have blah, 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 blah. And the interesting story was Princess Diana, who married the current king before they were divorced. She was Diana Spencer. Her family tree going back, so her father was an earl. He was a lord, if you will, of the country.
I think we might be going too deep here.
Well, just as an aside, she has closer ties to the British monarchy than Charles did.
Right.
Just by direct ascension.
I've seen a couple of those history shows where they found a guy that technically is supposed to have who's supposed to be part of the royal family. And like he's supposed to be the throne. It was taken from him, his ancestors.
Yeah, if you trace it back, because every now and then you had a war or you had a conqueror come in. Mm-hmm. So it really doesn't go all the way back to William the Conqueror, if you will.
Right.
But that's always recognized as the first king. You also have King Arthur, but there's some myth about him. Nobody knows if he really existed.
That is one hell of a chair, though. Oh, yeah. And then they paint. Oh.
That's what I'm saying. Think about it. That chair is older than our country, and he's sitting in it. The things is, I mean, meaning our government.
Names carved into it. Also, couldn't they preserve it a little better? You know,
no, they have since
give it a little repaint.
No, they have. I think they've redid it.
That shit's terrible.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
How does a chair even get like that?
I don't know.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, wear and tear.
Yeah. If nobody was keeping track of it, it was probably in a storage place somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They've been using it since 1266 for coronations. And remember, it's been sitting in storage for 70 years. It has been used for 70 years.
Please tell me they at least have a cushion on it now.
I think they did. I think so.
Please tell me they had a cushion.
Like I said, I didn't watch the whole thing. But that just kind of puts it in perspective for you, for people who say, monarchy, not a big deal. Okay, but...
It's not that it's not a big deal. Like, historically, it's a big deal, but I feel like they just don't have the influence that they had. Like, remember, there was a point where they were the ones making all the laws.
Well, because they're a constitutional monarchy now.
Right.
They have a constitution. Ours is loosely based on their constitution.
Loosely.
But,
and then we said F you, and then we made our own.
Originally,
America, freedom.
The monarchy was totalitarian because,
that's what we need. That's when we need a bird.
They didn't have a government.
One thing, guys, next thing, all donations are going to go towards a bald eagle. That goes right here, that flies across every time there's every time we say something American. But, all right, besides that, let's talk about some American news, Mother.
Yes.
Jordan Neely. Let's just go right into probably the biggest article of this week, which was... Story, sorry. So, for those of you that don't know, in New York City, someone got choked to death, basically. Accidentally. So Jordan Neely tried to push strap hanger. This is the wrong thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Basically,
I didn't hear of him pushing anybody. I heard he was a man who got on the train, a homeless man who was aggressively yelling at everybody on the train. If we haven't said enough, New York City is a shithole.
Yeah.
But he got on, he's aggressively yelling. Now, for those of us who have ridden the subways, maybe your listeners have, back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, I wore a headset because I didn't want to hear any of it. I didn't want to make eye contact with anyone. Nowadays, it sounds like it's just you take your life in your hands every time you get in a subway car. But this individual comes in and he's screaming at them aggressively, making comments. Right. Not at the time. I don't know if he made any movements or did anything outwardly aggressive, violent, other than yelling at people, which is annoying enough.
Yeah.
So this I don't know the man's name, to be honest.
Daniel Penny.
Thank you. 24-year-old Marine gets him in a chokehold because he was getting, I guess, once he was starting to get a little too violent, too aggressive, maybe.
So I've seen the video. I don't know if you saw the video.
I also the end of it.
Here's the problem with every video I found so far. It doesn't show any of what the guy was doing.
Yeah.
Jordan Neely. It's just the chokehold.
Yeah.
Which is why you have all these people standing out and not actually knowing what happened. So this guy was yelling, asking for money, and he was like, "I'm gonna starve" or whatever. And then he says, "I don't care if I go to jail." Now, hear me out.
Right.
That to me is a guy that has nothing to lose and has no problem taking people down with them.
Right.
So this is a tough one for me.
I think that's what his comments were starting to imply, and everybody was starting to get
Everyone was starting to get very nervous. Yeah. And when you have a guy that's having I guess you could call it a meltdown. I mean, you don't know what a guy like that's going to do or what he has on him.
In a city where people are randomly getting beaten up as they're walking down the street and shot in the head.
New York is a fucking lawless place right now.
Hey, your mother's here.
You know what I mean? It's getting really bad. I mean, this is just one story of the stuff that we haven't even heard of. My mom was telling me before, without going into it, there's a guy performing straight up executions in New York City.
I don't know if it was New York, I have to say. A man was charged with a hate crime after shooting
New York,
two strangers in the back of the head because they were white.
Like, that's insane to me. But besides that, we all know. So this guy is mentally not doing well, and you say, "I don't care if I go to jail." That's like up there. You know that old saying where it's like when you see a bag that's just lying there, you should call someone.
Yeah.
Right. To me, that kind of falls under this category of like, hey, if someone's going to say something like that, someone's going to have to do something. Now we have all these rioters out here that are comparing this whole situation to George Floyd. Right. White guy, black guy died because of a white guy choking him out. But here's the thing: if you watch that video, right, just the end. Notice how there are 5 people in the video besides the guy that's choking him out. Hispanic, black, another white person, and I believe there's another Hispanic person, and no one's doing anything. So that kind of, like, I would think that all these rioters would see that and go, well, maybe this guy was in the wrong if no one's helping get the Marine off of him.
Right.
So that means everyone in there was scared of Jordan Neely. Yeah, Neely. You have Penny and Neely, so I keep.
Like, or they didn't want to get involved because they didn't want to get in the kind of trouble that this Jordan.
If you watch the video, they were getting
involved,
but the Marine had him down. Now, I'm not justifying that this guy choked him to death.
I did see one person trying to grab his hands.
Yeah, because he was trying to get the Marine. So clearly, people wanted this Jordan Neely guy subdued. No question about it.
Right.
I just don't understand. Now, for those of you, I watch a lot of MMA, and I know guys that are 10th degree black belts. I don't know how you choke a guy to death without. How do I put this?
Don't they not pass out first usually?
Yeah, you pass out for a while. Like, you have to be holding the guy for 3 minutes, like, after he's knocked out.
I'm thinking he thought he passed out.
But his hands were moving, right? The other guy was trying to grab his hands, so he couldn't have been knocked out. That's why. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this guy died from the actual choke.
No, possible.
I don't believe
drugs.
it.
We'll see if they do another.
They'll have to.
Drug test on him.
That's a tough one. Like, we saw the video.
But you know what? It didn't matter with George Floyd. He was going to die from a fentanyl overdose.
Yeah.
That was a given.
That's still up for grabs. I mean, I'm with you on that one, but we'll never really know that one. This one's a weird one because.
Well, we do know. They did tox tests on him. He had an usually high amount of drugs and fentanyl in his system. So if the chokehold wasn't going to get him, something else was going to, literally in that moment.
Right.
Having said that, this person also, Jordan Neely.
I'm trying not to compare those two, but I can't really compare. Right. I know they want to, but I'm just saying from the perspective of, I don't think people understand how long you have to be choking someone out to kill them. Like,
I thought you have to pass through passing out first.
Yes.
So as soon as he passed out,
the Marine would let go. And
let go.
From what we saw, he let go. Okay. It was not nearly enough time to kill the guy.
So maybe that's why we don't think he died from the choke. Maybe he passed out, but he died from something else.
Maybe, but it doesn't sound like he snapped his neck. That's a tough one to do too.
Well, we have to see what the autopsy says. But one thing that you don't hear from a lot of the articles is also this guy had quite the record of punching people randomly.
Well, that's what I was saying. This guy was not. Yes. But that's why I don't understand why they're. This is my problem with. I think it's mainly the Black Lives movement or Matter movement. I don't understand why we call this guy a hero because he died. right? That to me is crazy. So a day before, right, and that was the article I brought up. A day before, he like tried pushing someone into the train tracks as the train was coming.
Yeah, he's like, punched people in the face. So he has 6 or 7 times he's been, I don't know if he's been arrested but pulled off trains for being violent.
Yeah, so it's not like this was a good person. Right. I shouldn't say good. I mean, this is the guy that was struggling. Right. And one day he just had a meltdown and he said, I don't care if I go to jail, and that's not something I want to hear on a subway. That's right. With a ton of people.
That's right. In New York City in this day and age.
I can't really sympathize for Jordan Neely in this situation. I more so sympathize for Daniel, who is 24 years old, 3 years younger than me, who's now going to have to go through some hell, probably his whole life, right? He's probably going to go through hell for this. And until we know exactly what happened, because I do not believe that he died from that choke.
But that was my point about bringing up this other situation. Are they now the same people that are calling Mr. Neely a hero? Are they going to say these 3 white individuals are heroes too, that were shot in the back of the head by this person? No. That's the ridiculousness of it, and that's why our justice system needs to get a handle on this. Right. You have to take it in the context of, you're at war in New York City right now. Yeah. And I hope the defense attorney makes that case.
It's a war that we're not even talking about.
Right.
It's a war on drugs. It's a war on the homeless crisis.
No, but I'm saying your average commuter going to work, people we know of, it is a war zone to go into the city and hope you get home alive. It's bizarre to me, to the point where I say to people, why do you even go? Well, you have to. It's work. You got to do it. Yeah. So you have to keep it in context of some of these individuals getting on these trains. And when somebody makes that comment, like, I got nothing to lose, you add to that, and I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it wasn't his fault. Maybe he's a total drug addict. Maybe he was strung out on something. Yeah. But all the more reason why it's a dog-eat-dog world out there right now, and you got to protect yourself. So we really need to start. We used to have stand your ground rules. There was a man by the name of Bernie Getz in the 1990s, I want to say, who pulled a gun out, shot people on the train. They dragged him through the ringer. Happened to be a white guy. I think the people he shot were young and they were black. But he was just and that environment was nothing compared to what it's like right now. Yeah. Okay? So I just think we're losing the conversation when you are blaming the white person or the person, regardless of skin color, who's just trying to save people, regardless of the skin color of there's plenty of crazy people on drugs in New York City who are white.
Now you're creating more bystander.
That's right.
What's it called? Bystander. What's the term? Bystander. When someone's a bystander, the bystander effect. It's like
Samaritan law.
No. It's a term for, like, let's say there was a fire and you assume everyone would call, but no one.
Right. I don't know that term.
I think it's just bystander effect.
Okay.
But that's kind of what this is. Now when there is a situation, people are going to want to help. And sometimes you need that help because police can't get there in a millisecond. And remember, New York's trying to defund their police. So,
well, I can tell you, honest to God, if I was on that train, I'd be thanking that Marine. If I was that scared with that individual. Unfortunate that he died. And you're right. We need to hear more of that story because something's a little weird about that.
Yeah, for all my MMA knowledge from the guys that I know who are the best in the world, no exaggeration, it takes a lot longer than, what was it? It was like watching him not go out was crazy to me. Like, the guy didn't pass out.
That's very strange. Going.
So the only time we've ever heard of that was when someone was high on drugs. Right? The heart keeps going. Somehow it's getting oxygen to the brain.
Right.
So,
well, you do have adrenaline flowing, even for the Marine, too. Yeah. I'm sure his adrenaline was flowing, but I don't know. He's young. He's 24. But if he's been in combat, usually I'd like to think they're a little bit more controlled in the sense that he knows the pressure he was applying. It's not the first time
he's done a chokehold like that. You could tell.
Do we know? I don't know.
Well, military
I'm sure he was trained. Yeah, but you know what? It's different when you're in the situation. It's one thing to be training on a mat with other guys. But when you're in the field and when things are going on, it's like when people pull out a gun, they start shooting.
I think the other difference is there's a difference between a Marine doing it on another Marine and a Marine doing it to just some random Michael Jackson impersonator, right? Who wasn't that big of a guy. So that's why I don't think that I think we're going to hear a lot more about this story in the sense of when we see that autopsy, I think everyone's going to get a little surprised.
Right.
And I have a pretty good hunch that that's going to end up, this is going to come, it's tough because I know that this kid is going to have a good lawyer. I forget, they already said who the lawyer was. Famous Republican lawyer. I can't think of it.
Well, I hope they litigate the city. I hope they litigate the environment that people, regardless of skin color, have to live under.
To me, this isn't a matter of this situation. This situation is the outcome of a problem that New York City has, which is the lawlessness of the drug epidemic that we talked about last week, where it's just like, oh, go into the subway and you could do drugs for price and we'll watch you, which is a great idea. Never. And then the homeless problem is another one that we haven't tackled, but we'll keep giving $140 billion to Ukraine. So again, New York's become a lawless shit show, and it's just getting worse. I don't know anyone that says anything good about New York City anymore.
No.
And again, we're 40 minutes from the city.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I'm curious to see how this one unfolds. But let's see. What's another one we could do?
Well, if you want to talk about it getting worse, you want to put my video they sent you?
This is an interesting one. I saw this, but we could play this one.
The important part of this is, there's our lovely Senator Menendez.
Is border security important? Senator, thank you for the question.
So who is she?
She's a Biden nominee. I'm not even sure what position. Something to do with the border and with probably maybe Department of Homeland Security.
It says career member of the Senate for
Foreign Services. She's up for some sort of position in the Biden administration. They didn't give me details. I can find out. But
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, Senator, border security is very important. Do you support physical security measures like border walls? In Jordan, Senator? Let's stay on Jordan. I think I would have to defer to the Jordanians whether they think that such measures. Well, we're spending American taxpayer dollars for border security in Jordan. Are you familiar with the president's budget request? I am, sir, in terms of...
Okay, you don't have to play the whole thing. I mean, you get the gist right there.
I don't even know. I'm a little confused.
Biden has put her up as the U.S. ambassador to U.S. ambassador to Jordan.
Right.
Okay? And he's asking her a simple question. Do you support putting a wall for security in Jordan? Mm-hmm. Or he just said border walls. He didn't even make a specification. And what does she say? In Jordan? Does it matter?
I mean, I wonder if that's to her point, and I'll push back. There's so much questioning in these things. Like, not even this case. I'm just saying, guys who go around trying to basically corner you into saying something stupid. Mm-hmm. I would not be upset with her trying to make sure if she means here or another place. I get your point, but like, I feel like these are so tricky to navigate. Because you do have to...
Oh, no. She knows exactly what he's doing, and she's stuck.
Yeah.
Because this has been a problem for not just the Biden administration. The American citizens, we fund hundreds of millions of dollars for border walls around the world. Literal walls, not just the travesty in Ukraine. Right. Literal walls. Funded from Democratic mainly, and Republican, but mainly Democratic administrations taking our tax dollars. But yet when we say put a wall, oh no, that's unfair,
weird,
that's unjust. You can't do that.
It's a fair question for her to ask if he meant, like, he didn't say in Jordan. I know that was
no, but he did say, okay, fine, let's stay on Jordan. Yeah. But his point is, if it's okay in Jordan with our tax dollars, it's not the Jordanians paying it to protect themselves or the Syrians. Right. We're paying it for another country.
Like, why would he not just ask the question, like, it's okay in Jordan, but do you think it's okay in the U.S.? Because then you got.
Well, he does get to that point. We're not going to keep going, but but understand, I just want people to see that she had to clarify it. He didn't even say it. He just said, okay, we'll stick with Jordan if you want to. Why does it matter where it is? We're paying for walls in Israel. We pay for walls in Jordan. We're paying for walls in Iran and Iraq. And meanwhile, the reason why I bring this up is because on May 11th, citizens listening today, okay? Right. So all the other stuff you're hearing right now, I don't care what it is, transgender, Mr. Neely on the subway, pick your topic that everybody's got, any one of the Trump cases that are coming up, right? It's all just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, because we're about to have a massive amount of illegal
immigrants. They don't want you talking about that border. Mm-hmm. Now, for those of you yawning, saying, okay, we've been hearing about the border forever. Yeah, I've been hearing about it for 57 years. But come May 11th, we've had something called Title 42 in place. It's going to be revoked on May 11th. What is Title 42? Just to clarify. The Trump administration put that in during COVID. It was a way to say, you know what? We can't have all these people in detention centers when they come over the border because of COVID. Mm-hmm. They have to go back to Mexico and wait in Mexico. Okay? That is the only thing that has been saving us. And I say saving as a joke because we've already had 2+ some odd million people come into this country over that border illegally since the new president came in. Mm-hmm. Okay? Come May 11th, there are currently 700,000 people waiting on the other side.
Waiting too.
Like now camps. It's closer to 1 million because that was a couple months ago. Come May 11th, they are flooding into our country. You now have Democratic senators in Arizona saying, it's chaos. You have to do something about it. Okay, they're very late to the game. They knew this was going on, but now even they know this is going to be a disaster for our country in general, not just those border states. So as we talk about New York being a shithole, be prepared. They are already overrun. I sent a video out or a picture out yesterday, the Chicago Police Department. It is loaded with migrants sleeping on the floors of a police department, and more are coming. Right. And that's just the first wave.
Yeah, that's insane.
And that's in a few days. Now now everybody's going to start to feel the effect of this, and it's going to be too late. The Biden administration.
Legal asylees, Mom. Miss AOC, help me out. I can tell my mom just got so mad.
Well, I think
wonder which way my mom voted.
We spend so much time talking about all this other stuff, and yeah, it's important, but they're all cultural things. Right. It's all to distract everybody from the bigger picture. If you don't put a stop to it and get people to come in legally, nobody's against legal immigration.
Yeah, it takes some time, but we can't have these overflows. So what do? You can't build a wall that fast. What do? You just have Border Patrol on there with...
Well, the president is sending 1,500 troops down to the border in anticipation of this.
Oh, that's enough. 1,500 against a million?
Do you know what they're doing?
What?
They're processing these people as they come in. That's what they're doing. You're taking troops and you're putting them down there with a pen and a piece of paper. Exactly. That's what they're going to be charged to do. So it's not like they're going to say, no, turn around and go back. No. They're going to say, what's your name? And they'll make something up. What's your ID? And they'll make something up. Here's your ticket. Come back in 6 months to court to apply for citizenship.
How many kids do you have?
And they're
60. Gone. What? What do you mean you have 60 kids?
Okay. So what do? You keep Title 42 in place. Somebody needs to do another emergency order to put it in
place. Question,
though.
What does Title 42 exactly do? It just puts them back into Mexico?
It says you can't come over the border.
Do anything?
Well, it physically allows the Border Patrol people to say, you're back. You're not even coming over. Go back. Okay? So that's how you always have what's called gotaways, people that get past and get into the country. But for the most part, it allows them to say, no, you have to wait in Mexico before you come in. Before we process you in.
Very
because of right.
God, that's unbelievable.
So I'm telling all your listeners, just pay attention.
It's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad. And these cities that are bad, that's why I say in this case, they better start litigating what's going on in these cities because it's only going to get worse. And it's worse for the migrants too, by the way. It's not that they're all bad people, but you're bringing them into this country and we don't have the infrastructure anymore to support them.
Right.
If you feel we have to, I don't feel we should have to, but that we don't have the police force, we don't have what needs to take it. And now you get Marines taking it into their own hands to control it. So keep an eye out, people. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
But maybe there'll be some pushback on these policies like this one. Most Americans support anti-trans policies favored by GOP. Poll shows. Would you like to go into this one? Because I didn't really read it.
Well, it's not a long article,
it's kind of
we had a conversation about it last time. And this one sort of pushes more, or the emphasis is more on transgender children. I think a lot of people are one side is not making the distinction. They're saying all transgender. The other side of the argument is saying it's really about the children. What adults do is a separate issue, right or wrong, it's a separate issue. You have to treat children differently because they're literally the government in some of these states are taking the children away from the parents, which is outrageous. Yeah. And it's just not the way this country should be run. Having said that, 57% say that gender is determined at the start of life, at birth. 43 says it can differ. Last year, 60% supported sex-determined assigned at birth. That was up from 54% in 2017. So in other words, the emphasis is on children, and really the whole, the movement is towards protecting the kids and not allowing transgender to trickle down to children that are not of an age to make those decisions. And most Americans support that, a majority of Americans. So a lot of times people say, oh, majority of Americans, they hate transgender. That's not what they're saying. They're saying it's about the kids. And given that we talked about it last time, and I didn't want us to come off as being transphobic in any way, respect for all people, but there's an issue when you're pushing it on children at a young age, when we're not really sure how. It's becoming a little bit too much. Let's put it that way. It's just too much. There's something more going on here.
I got into a little bit, not debate, but we don't really debate at the gym. We're all too worried about other things. But we were talking about the drag shows. Remember we talked about?
Yes.
Remember this was a big deal. And I know they're doing the anti-drag shows now. Or I'm sorry, drag parades, I guess you can call them. And it's kind of, not to go too deep into the weeds, but it's like, I understand that trans people should be open to doing what they want, in the sense of you can have these organizations, but there's got to be certain regulations behind it. You can't get by the regulations, and I feel like a lot of times that's what they try to do and then complain, oh, you're trying to shut down our shows. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't let an 8-year-old into a strip club, right?
They do now.
So you have to have certain regulations. You can't just be trans and then go into drag and then go into have a show and not have regulations behind the show. So when people complain about the anti-drag show, anti-LGBTQ, which I don't even know if that falls under that, to be honest. I'm going to assume it does, but it's not so much that people are against you doing what you want to do. I'm sure there are some people that do that. It's more so you can't get around regulations just because you're part of the LGBTQ community. Right. So when you're getting kids involved, right, trying to get around these regulations, or I shouldn't say get around, but it's unregulated. You can't, I'm trying to think of how to put this into words, but you can't have a kid going to a drag show just like you wouldn't have a kid going to a strip club. Right. Not all. So my friend made the argument that not all drag shows are risque, if you will, and that's fair. I've never been to one. I know Kenny has for some reason. But
well, he did with his friends.
He did with friends, yeah. He kind of got tricked into it. But.
Which again, that's what they were for. They were fun things to do.
Exactly.
And it didn't become like this whole message. They have to now it's all about a message. Yeah. It wasn't just entertainment. It's a message, and it's warping. Yeah. And not all of them either. I think that there's just like everything else. There's some groups that take it too far within a group. Yeah. I've seen some drag show entertainers come out and post videos saying, I think I forwarded to you, saying, why would you take a kid to this?
Exactly.
It's sexualized. Why would you do it?
It's not all of them. Yep. And again, it's just because it's something new, right? Which it's come more to light in the sense of mainstream media, not like 40 years ago where it was kind of under wraps or it was really looked down upon. But because it's new, that doesn't mean you could do what you want until it's regulated. You got to get the regulations, say this is what we're doing, give us the laws that we have to abide by, that everyone else has to abide by, and then we can do our shows or whatever. You can't have a 4-year-old going to a risque drag show without saying it's risque, right?
Yeah.
So again, if it's just a normal drag show, it's a little more justifiable.
Right.
But this whole thing that we've been hearing about the last couple of months doesn't have to do with a regular drag show. It was a risque drag show that 8-year-olds are watching.
Yes.
Maybe even younger.
There's something more going on here, and it's an ideology, yes. I think it's appalling that non-transgender people, okay? Because, yes, the transgender people are involved. And I'm going to put them to the side. For the non-transgender people who are pushing this, transgenderism is a mental health disorder. Everybody scream and call me transphobic, whatever you want to. It has always, that's fine. It's always been that way. Doesn't mean they don't deserve respect. Doesn't mean they don't.
That's true.
But most of them, from what I've seen, they need help.
Yep.
They need help. they can.
I think there are some that can navigate it a lot better than others. Like,
yes.
I think we know some. I know someone who transitioned to. I mean, how do I
equate it to somebody who has schizophrenia. Well, it's a mental health disorder and it needs treatment.
I think
that's all.
To a certain
now,
extent,
it's not
as
dramatic in terms of what could happen with it, but whatever other issue a person, depression, it's something that needs to be addressed.
I think the argument that most people would make, and I might side a little bit with this one, is to me a mental illness is something, and I think a lot of people in the left would kind of see it this way. A mental illness is something that's debilitating. Right? Something that debilitates you. Technically speaking, transitioning, if you really believe that you need to transition, and I do know someone who transitioned who, truthfully, I knew him as a guy and now he's a girl. He, you knew back when he was a dude that he was not a dude. You know what I mean? And I hope that's not disrespectful. I don't know if that's the right term for it. I'm not. I don't know the LGBTQ community very well. But where was I going with this? Basically, that was a guy that when he transitioned, we were all like, okay, makes sense.
Right.
But I think there are some people who are still trying to find their way, and that's when it gets debilitating. So it's kind of weird.
I think transitioning, if you have to do it, and if it helps you, that should be a process. It's not something that you should just say, oh, here you go, here's your hormone pill.
Some people can navigate it, some people can't.
Right.
So to put it up there with something like schizophrenia, I can't really agree with
Well, I only use that because it's a mental health disorder, but
one's
meaning
more debilitating.
You need respect.
I think we can.
Yes. Well, yes and no. A lot of people with schizophrenia, you never know it. They're treated, they have medication, they go for help.
I also think that some people who do transition, again, we go through the whole phase of, it's not really the mental, how do I put this? It's not that the transitioning is the mental illness, it's the depression that comes with it when it doesn't work out. It's all the other outlying factors that are caused by the transition. Does that make sense?
Well, there's the argument to be made, not by me, but from psychiatrists that I have read who have dealt with this for a long time. The transitioning doesn't fix the problem. There's still an underlying problem.
For most. I would say most.
We don't know. You don't know what's in somebody's past that they may not have addressed yet. That's the point. It's an ongoing, and that's why I say it's something that, fine, if you're going to transition as an adult, that's fine. It doesn't end there. You still need to be getting help. You still need to be learning to live with your situation, even if you're doing well with it, accepting it and all that stuff. But I still think somebody needs to have help with that, right? You can't just throw a switch and say, well, today I'm going to be a certain way, and I feel good about it. Because too many times...
But I think that goes back to the minority, the vast minority, or what is it?
Majority? Minority?
Minority. The loud minority. There's not too many people that transition and switch back and forth from day to day. That's just like a couple use cases.
That's the point. They're trying to normalize it so much that traditional transition people, and perhaps your friend falls into this category even though it's a new thing, it's a long-term process. Okay? It wasn't something you did overnight. Now, it seems like in a school year, a kid is identified, they switch their gender, they're already on blockers, and they're having surgery. Right. And if you're doing that with children, I'm sure they're doing it with adults.
I completely agree with the fact that kids should not even be... Listen, we've been figuring this crap out for how many centuries now?
Let's rule kids out. But even an 18-year-old in college, they think they know better. They think they know what they want. They're legal adults. They can do what they want to do, in my opinion. But it should still not be something for that particular type of syndrome to just throw a switch. They're normalizing it too much.
Right.
That's my point.
I think it's... And I'm going to bring up the Chris Tyson one from Mr. Beast.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of what I'm getting at as... And it's part of what I'm getting at is... It was the stresses of what's going on in their life that caused someone like that to transition, right? Because we know that at the time, right? I don't know what time when he was that he made this decision, but like the stresses of COVID for him, that's what caused him to transition.
Right.
It's not that he felt this way this whole life. And again, I'm just going based off what I know. I'm just using an example. I don't know. Maybe he has felt that way his whole life.
When you look at the statistics of how many people all of a sudden are transgender, It's
or
extreme.
You mean part LGBTQ?
No. I'm talking people who are now saying I identify as a different gender.
Right. That would be that. Well,
the number of people have exploded.
This is where I get a little weirded out by, or I get confused when I hear transgender. That tells me someone that transitioned. You see it as someone that's just changed their gender identity.
I'm putting it all together.
Right.
I'm putting it all together.
That's when we get in a little trouble.
Okay.
Because to your point, I don't know the LGBTQ community to know, like, that's why Dylan Mulvaney has to come on. We got to have a conversation. But I just don't know.
I do know a lot of the...
I don't know how you would put it.
The lesbians and gays are now having a problem with the transgender movement because 10, 15 years, 20 years ago, when the gays were working very hard, the homosexuals were working very hard to get their concept was, at birth, I knew that I was attracted to the same sex. I knew it. Okay? They don't know if there's a homosexual gene. They just said that was their argument. It's not something we're making up as we get older. We knew it. Now the trans community comes along and says, oh no, nobody knows at birth. It's fluid.
Yeah.
So the homosexual community is having a problem with the LGBTQ plus transgender community.
It's a fair argument because it's kind of hard that we meld those two together, right? One is what you're attracted to, and the other is how you feel about yourself. Right?
But that's not what the transgenders are saying. The transgender community and the trans...
Now, you mean trans as in people who identify as something they're not?
Either, yes. And ones that continue and change their gender.
I don't know which one.
Right. People that go ahead and change their gender and identify as a different gender, or say, I was male but when I was born, but now I'm a female. That's the opposite of what the homosexual community has been saying and built their whole crusade on, because their argument, and it's valid for them, they were saying, no, I've been homosexual. I was born a homosexual. I knew I was attracted to males, even though I'm a man. They didn't say the gender was different, but they said it's not fluid. Their argument is different. Okay. And they built their whole cause on that. Now you have a group of people, and ironically, it's not usually the transgenders, it's the supporters of them coming and saying, oh, no, you don't know who you're attracted to at birth. You don't know what gender you are. Gender is a very fluid thing. Well, this blows apart the whole homosexual argument from the beginning. And that's why, I'm not saying one's right or wrong, but many in the homosexual community are saying, we don't want the trans part of us. We don't agree with what they're saying.
It's such a slippery slope, because that's... It's tough because you have so many different ideologies in one group of people. Like, usually when you have a right and a left, or a conservative, Democrat, I mean, they're all pretty rooted in the general concepts.
Right.
Where I feel like with the LGBT community, and I know friends that, I'm not speaking out of turn here, they agree with me, there's so many different opinions in one organization, if you can call it that they can't come to a consensus on anything. But they expect everyone around them to come to a consensus of listening to their rules.
Right.
Right?
But it's the classic line. You want me to accept you for who you are when you couldn't even do it for yourself.
Right.
So it's very hard.
That's a tough line, though, because I kind of don't like that line.
Well,
because it sounds very disingenuous.
They were not comfortable with who they were. They were not comfortable with the gender they have, so they changed it. Okay, fine.
Right.
But now they're forcing us to say, well, now I'm female. I'm comfortable with being a female, and you must accept that if they were male.
My biggest problem, I think, is the misgendering rules. And I think those kind of have changed, and it's like, I understand, the misgendering thing of like, if I know you, and I've known you for years, and I know that you transitioned from female to male, and I'm still calling you her, then I'm an asshole. But if I meet you for the first time, I don't know you at all, and I accidentally misgender you, and you go, how dare you? That's a problem.
See, and this is part of the problem with normalizing it. That's why I say we're normalizing it too much. I don't think, and I don't mean that to say we should make people feel uncomfortable, like normal's not good. Yeah. What I'm saying is we're making it too easy for people who have other issues to say, oh, this is going to solve my problem. That's not fair to those people, because they're not getting the actual help they need. Not every problem, sexual orientation or whatever, is going to be solved by changing a gender. That's just a fact. For some people, it does. They have an issue and they do it.
Yeah, some people I think that's where we get the saying that everything's on a spectrum.
Right.
Again, some people in that community can navigate it.
Right.
And truly are happy afterwards.
Right.
And
that's my feeling. Those are but that's my point. Those are the individuals, right? Mm-hmm. Very rarely are they the ones that complain if you misgender them.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's always the ones that are pushing the like, not pushing, I shouldn't say it that way, but they seem to be very, very, firm in this ideology, even if they're not a part of that group.
Well, now
they feel they have to defend those individuals.
Yeah, and then it gets to these extremes like transableism,
right?
Which is, for those of you that don't know, that's people who are born normal and identify as being disabled. Yeah. Like at that point, like what are we doing? Like even the left can't get behind that one because that was just so ridiculous. And again, you can rally some people behind you on that one, but the massive, massive majority, I would even say 99% of people on the left would even agree with that.
And this is why we have to be careful when we normalize these things, okay?
That's true.
It's not about disrespecting somebody. It's not about saying he's right, she's wrong. But it's about making it seem like, oh, live and let live. Everybody do what they want to. You think you're helping people. Some people you are by affirming what they want to believe. But it's becoming so prevalent now that many of us are being concerned that not only is it not good for the people that you keep, oh, how dare you misgender somebody? Are you really helping those individuals by feeding into a frenzy that may not be valid?
No. I'm just trying to read some of this article because we gave our opinions, but we really didn't talk about the article.
No, I just want the stats from it because they talk about
the people. For those of you that can't read it, it says a 57% majority of adults said a person's gender is determined from the start, with 43% saying it can differ. I mean, someone's wrong. It's almost 50% might be wrong, right? Like that's
No, that's 100%. 57 and 43.
Yeah, I'm saying that that means someone there is wrong, right? If you have two answers. See what I'm saying?
57% say a person's gender is determined from the start. 43% say it can differ.
Yeah.
At the start of your life.
Someone in that's wrong, right? Someone in there has to be wrong.
No, it's an ideology.
Exactly.
So 43% are saying you could be born with female body parts, but that doesn't make you a female.
Right. That's fair. I get. Oh yeah. Because I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of.
Whereas the other 50%, the majority of the people in the country are saying, you know what? If you're born a female, you're female. If you're born a male, you're male. It's nothing against transgender. That's just what people think.
But it also says that a majority of Americans oppose. Oh, it says while a majority of Americans oppose access to puberty blockers and hormone treatments for children and teenagers, clear majorities also support laws prohibiting discrimination against trans people, including K through 12 schools. Okay. So it's pretty unanimous that people don't want this in schools.
Well, or just they don't want to discriminate these kids when they're in it. So it's kind of like
that's my other big problem. At 12, between K and 12, all I cared about was recess. This was the last thing on my mind. In fact, it probably wasn't even in my vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Now, given I did go to private Catholic school and I don't know how it is in public schools, but this was the last thing that I was thinking about. And I have to believe most kids that age are the same way. You never heard about this?
No.
And we navigated life just fine.
Again, don't lose sight of the big picture. The goal is to break up families.
Okay. Well, we can't make that.
Yes, we can. Many people are making that. It's to break up families. You have these kids. I don't know. Nowadays, I would say you're losing your mind if you're putting kids in any sort of school anymore. You are giving your child over to individuals for 8+ hours a day. That's more time than some parents spend with their kids. Yeah. And we always thought you go into school and they're learning some things, maybe got some fights in the hallway. Now we're finding out that, or at least a certain, let's say, nefarious group in this country is realizing, hey, we own those kids for 8 hours. We can mend them and mold them into whatever we want to. And now there's been other things in schools that have been going on, but now this is the hot topic. Gender identity. Okay? 2, 3, and 4-year-olds are questioning their gender.
Well, yeah, which is wild to me that is even in their thought process, if that's true. Okay.
Duke University Medical School, UNC Medical, and I forget who the third one is, are posting that they will do gender treatments for kids who are 2, 3, and 4 years old. You can start at that.
To me. Yeah, that's something. I'd like to think that most people would agree. Don't touch the kids. Right?
Well, apparently the majority of the people in this country do agree with that. But you have to ask yourself, 10 years ago, this was not an issue. All of a sudden now, it's exploding.
20 years
Why?
from now is going to be wild if we keep going down this road.
Are you telling me that when you were in school, every other kid around you was questioning their sexuality?
No, that's what I'm saying. No one in my class has ever talked about stuff like this.
This is what happens when you normalize things. Yeah. And now you've got teachers
now you force us to think about it, right?
Right.
So,
which is what they want.
I just want to go on the swings and see if I can launch myself over the fence.
Yes.
Every week.
Yes.
Every single day, that's all I look forward to, not this stuff.
Yes, I agree. So what is the point? Why do you do this? Why does a teacher spend their time? I'm sorry. They're good people, but do you really think, and I'm telling you, this I have heard from somebody else, the teachers aren't loving this.
Oh, yeah.
They're not liking this at all.
Oh, man. Yeah, so without naming names,
well, you hear a lot, we see it on TikTok and everything else, all these teachers that come out. They are the minority.
In our area, right, the school system, I have a lot of friends whose kids are in those school systems. They have kids that are like pre-K to fourth grade or whatever. It is unbelievable how bad it's gotten at the board level, and all the teachers are like, yeah, we don't want to teach this stuff, but we're being forced to.
Yeah.
Right? My friend's wife is a teacher, and she was saying how, I forget what it was. It was something like, it was a while ago, but she gets, her tenure was based on, and you know what? I don't know the facts, so I'm not gonna throw anything out there. But from what I hear, even she's like debating if she wants to keep teaching. Like it's become so not what she wanted that she's pretty much out. And again, that's one case, but from what I hear from other people who are teachers or trying to get into the teaching industry, if you will, same feeling. They don't want to teach this shit.
No, they don't. This is not what they sign up for.
Again, and I call it shit because I think anything that's being taught from K to 12 on any of this is shit. At an older age, sure, fine, I guess, if that's what you sign up for. The kids aren't signing up for this. And now you're shoving it down their throats.
Yeah.
So, to me, I mean, I didn't even know what a hormone was.
I know.
Back in, up until college, probably.
I know.
And then now, all of a sudden, you want to teach a kid about hormone blockers?
Yes. But do you understand, in states, I believe it was Washington or Oregon, they have recently passed legislation that you can take the child away from the parents if they fight you on any issue in school with having that child transition. They will take the child away from the parents, meaning
wait.
separate the child from the parents.
If the parents are anti-teaching about it?
If the parents say we do not want our child transitioned, or if in any way they will not use the gender name that the child wants, the schools have the authority now to take the child away from the parents.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Even if that's a law, I guarantee you, that's where you start seeing the guns come out.
But now, do you understand? This is the mentality. That's the ultimate goal, to break these families up.
If we're at the point where we're taking kids away from parents for their opinions on stuff like this, I mean, now we have to like really reassess.
For something that 5-10 years ago, it was never an issue. You know, I don't recall hearing, oh, these kids are struggling in school and we don't know why in kindergarten. You know, they're so obsessed and they're upset and they're struggling and we can't figure out why. Oh, now we know why. They're all gender confused. No, all I ever heard about 10 years ago was, we can't teach the test. We barely have time to get through the school day. But now all of a sudden we can deal.
In high school, I was on a train.
Yeah, right. But even in general, I'm saying the public schools. I'm not going to compare it to all, but around the country.
This has to do with the fact that we've never had anyone in public school.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about public school because you would hear from teachers all across the country.
I don't know what level of this was going on when I was a kid in the public schools. Like I have no recollection of anyone talking about it from the public schools. But I mean, it sounds like we're going down a path here that we do not want to go on. And again, it's going to swing back and it's going to be ugly.
And keep in mind, all these kids were kept home for a year. They went back to school depressed.
Almost 2.
Unhappy, miserable. They're behind in their education. Now you bring some people in talking about, you know why you're upset? It's because you don't know your gender. Okay? I'm simplifying it. But you've got an audience of kids. It's really cruel. It's really cruel what they're doing to kids.
Well, if you're looking to get out of school.
Oh, we're segueing.
Segueing. I thought this was pretty good. If you're trying to get out of school, just fake your own abduction to hide the fact that she dropped out of college. Penn Stater.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of our own.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Okay, sure. I'll allow to have her once. So this girl, this genius, mother, genius. Ready? Woman charged with faking her own abduction to hide the fact that she dropped out of college, police say. So what she did, again, brilliant. A 23-year-old Pennsylvania woman, so Chloe Stein, arrested Tuesday evening being charged with 4 misdemeanors of false alarm to a public safety agent, false reporting of an offense that didn't occur, obstructing administration of law, and disorderly conduct. So basically, this girl calls her boyfriend, says, hey, a cop pulled me over. Then she claims that the cop abducted her to her own house. They called their parents. They were like, nah, we don't know where she is. And she got out of... So she dropped out in like sophomore year, basically tricked her parents and boyfriend into thinking she was still in school. And then when graduation came around, she faked being kidnapped.
Well, let's do the math here. She's also 23.
Well, yeah, right. So
Could
she
that
dropped
happen at 18? She started as a freshman.
No, you would graduate
19, 20, 21. Right. Usually like 22 when you graduate. So she's already a year past.
So she dropped out at 21. Right?
As a sophomore?
Yeah, she dropped out as a sophomore, fake junior and senior year.
But it's pretty late to be a sophomore in college at 21.
20.
Usually you're 21 by your senior year.
Oh, that's
right. You followed the
yeah.
normal process, so.
Maybe she took a gap year? That's a good point.
Maybe we've been having issues with school for quite a long time now, which is why we're not graduating.
I think you're right. You're probably right. But I just think this is so funny. I was watching a podcast yesterday, Ryan Sickler's podcast, The Honeydew. Ryan Sickler. And there was a guy on who was talking about. Oh, I wish I knew his name. I should. Let me find it real fast. But it's a funny. But he was talking about how he faked his report cards because he was failing so much. Yeah. He got to the point where he was like scantroning. He had the perfect scantrons. He just had the wrong paper. And then like one year when a father showed his dad a report card, he was like, this doesn't feel like my son's. And he goes to the school to get all of his son's grades, and it's just straight F's.
Oh, jeez.
Let me just make sure. I want to give the guy the shout out that he deserves, Ryan Sickler. The Honeydew. Oh, I butchered Sickler. Sean Patton. He was talking about it. He's got really good stories. So this is a great podcast. You know who Ryan Sickler is? He's another comedian.
He looks familiar.
Yeah, a guy like Ryan. So he highlights the lowlights.
Okay.
So comedians and other celebrities give their life stories and basically trying to funny. So, but yeah, I just thought this was so funny that this girl managed to.
Well, didn't she realize it was going to catch up with her at some point?
I don't know how you don't. I mean, you're a dumb 23-year-old, so maybe you didn't pick up on it or you didn't think it through. But no, God. But to allow to trick your parents for 2 years, you also have to question the parents. You know,
yeah.
How'd you guys not figure out that your daughter? Well, I shouldn't say that because I know some kids are very independent.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of parents don't helicopter their kids. They're like,
but to know where your tuition. Well, maybe if she was paying.
She paying her own tuition and doing her own thing.
It's possible, but I don't know why you would get.
But you know what? If she was paying for it all, she wouldn't be worried about hiding it from her parents, right? You say, I
Sean
pay
Patton
for it.
Was talking about how he told everyone he got his GED. He's like, it'll come in the mail. And it never did. So, but look how he turned out. He's a successful comedian, so it works. But that's a wild one.
Yeah, my guess is somebody else was footing the bill, and that's why she was dodging having to admit she's not going to graduate. But you can't hide that forever.
Quantum computing supremacy unleashed. AI chatbots are doomed.
This is yours, right?
Yeah, this is mine. So basically, this is kind of a add-on to your next one. Mm-hmm. So I saw this and I said, well, this kind of goes to show you just how fast technology moves. So the next thing that they're working on in the GPT world or the AI system world is trying to find the right answer, right? Who's going to determine what's right and what's wrong on these apps? Like, how do you steer it so that it gets the right answers? Mm-hmm. Now, the big question when it comes to AI is what determines right and wrong.
Right.
Right. So what they're talking about is the next stage of implementing quantum computing into these AIs.
Okay.
Now, as you know, with some stuff we've been doing, quantum computing is getting nuts, Mom, as they say. So now we're at the point where we can put these into AIs. So like actual robots. And now they can start doing everything on their own. So I just thought this just goes to prove how fast technology is, in the sense of 2 weeks ago, like within the last 2 months, right? OpenAI comes out with ChatGPT. Well, they didn't come out with it, but it became what it is today. And now we're already on the next giant leap, which is getting quantum computing involved. And quantum computing is about to just take off. So,
but it's a big concern for the godfather of AI.
Yeah, there we go. That's the transit. See, guys, my mom's learning. That was a beautiful transition to...
The godfather of AI resigns from Google. He's warning of the dangers of it.
Yeah.
His name is Geoffrey Hinton. I'm going to guess he's Dr. Geoffrey Hinton.
I don't know who he is.
He's the AI pioneer, Chris. He's been doing this since the 1970s, right. Starting with basic, how to put little chips in this, that, and the other thing and make it do certain things. He sees generative AI as very risky.
Generative AI.
I don't know what generative meaning.
Generates.
Generations, generative. I don't know.
Generative means like when
you're telling me you know the term? Okay.
It means that like something that can come up with its own answers on its own.
Okay.
Based on algorithms.
Why does he have issues? Basically, just what you just said. Keeping bad actors out of it. Yeah. Very hard to do. Spreading misinformation, disinformation, false information. There's no control of that. You could displace jobs, which we know for a fact. We already have some companies saying we're going to put robots in and get the people out. Threatens humanity. That's a big thing, right? A lot of people don't like that. And it could then become smarter than people. So he stepped off because he doesn't like the direction it's going in. And this is somebody who basically started the whole process and can see, here it is. This is the world we live in. Do you really want to trust just anybody? Especially after what we saw just with social media and using it with false information. Who gets to be the gatekeeper? Because the ones who did it last time wound up censoring free speech. Who's going to be the gatekeeper of AI? Who's going to decide what direction
I don't know if the
in?
answer, and we've been talking about this with our boss. I don't know what the right answer is, in the sense of, do you have a gatekeeper or do you just say no gatekeeper? And then you still have to figure out what the right answers are, because that's kind of the point of it. But what's the right answer? Mm-hmm. It's going to be a dilemma that we're going to be hearing about for the next 10, 20 years.
Well, yes, and the data is what it is. I guess if bad data would be cycled out,
right,
you would think.
But again, this kind of goes back to the original point of ChatGPT. It wasn't to answer your questions. It was designed to build and fix problems. Now, again, it's not talking about like, oh, how do we fix world hunger? We're talking like, hey, we have this robot here that needs a code. Please throw the code in and make it do this. That's the point of it.
Yeah, but
now, of course, it's going to get used as something for questions. How do we end world hunger and stuff? But you can't rely on a robot that's just it's not coming up with its own answers. It's just grabbing answers from all over the internet, right? So it's very hard. I agree with him. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone's really going to know. I think we're kind of at the point where we're leaning in a certain direction, just based on what I know from work. We're leaning in the right direction of it's doing what it's supposed to do very well. When you start throwing dumb questions at it, like how do we end world hunger, it's not going to be able to answer something like that.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
We don't want to rely on a robot for that. You don't want to. Right?
We don't. But the point was that's what he's saying. You can't keep the genie in the box. You can't just keep it for what it's intended to do. It's going to get. I mean, again, social media was supposed to be an open platform for everybody. Mm-hmm. Once people got involved and put their ideology in, it got messed up.
Yeah.
The problem with AI is it's a battle between AI and humanity. Who's going to win? Humans are flawed.
Yep.
Right? There's nothing you can do.
A robot's flawed too, and AI can be flawed as well.
A robot is perfect in the sense that it's data in, data out. Whatever data you give that robot or program it to have, It's going to work perfectly on that data.
Sure.
It could destroy humanity because it's working perfectly on that data. And that's the point. We have to control something that's smarter than we are eventually.
From the operations point of view, it's perfect.
Yes. Well, I'm
from
saying
the operations
right.
point is perfect. Right. But again, when it comes to real questions that have no right or wrong answer, I don't believe that ChatGPT is ever going to be the answer for that. It'll give you ideas, but like
because it's not human. It doesn't have the humanity aspect.
So I like to think and hope that we don't rely on something to answer how to stop global warming, right? It's gonna say the general opinions of people, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna come up with an answer. If it could come up with an answer, well,
if history repeats itself. One could have said 5 years ago, I'm going to hope we don't have social media decide what information we can and cannot know about, say, I don't know, an election.
Information's, again, that kind of goes back to, this is where we kind of see it a little differently. Information is one thing that it's definitely not, it's just giving you compiled information of what's already out there. Mm-hmm. I'm saying more objective things that will have a direct answer. So, again, giving me your opinion on if someone should go to jail or not.
Can't ChatGPT tell me how to end global warming? It pulls the data, it pulls the information,
it'll spit back information that other people have given. Right? And it'll give you that.
Right.
If I said, I need you to take that guitar over there and move it over there, it can do that. That's the point of it.
Right.
So it's a point A to point B answer. Once you start giving it like, do you think I'm pretty? It's going to go, yeah, sure, I guess. I don't trust it because it's a robot, but I do trust it to get from that guitar over to there. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but so that's
speaking.
Right, so that's a subjective question.
Yeah, once you have a subjective question.
How do you fix global warming? You may think is subjective, right? Like, I don't think there's global warming.
Sure. So
is it opinion or is it
subjective?
Right.
Different question then, because to your point, I think my guess is that there are too many answers to get to that conclusion, so it won't be able to give you a definitive answer. Mm-hmm. So if I said, bring that guitar over here, it knows, and it's probably going to do the same formula every time to get that guitar from point A to point B, or to work on a conveyor belt, to
a process to get it there.
Right. If you say something that's even we haven't really figured out yet, then I think it's going to struggle pretty hard. Like, I don't think it's going to be able to give you a direct answer. It'll come up with ideas, but it won't say the full answer.
Well, and I think that's what his concern is. Somebody's going to give it that answer.
Right.
And the problem is, who's that somebody going to be?
Exactly, yeah. And that's the fear.
Yes.
And that's why, but that goes back to my point of, I don't trust a robot to, like, I if it's an opinion-based answer, I wouldn't go to a robot for that, because I know the robot won't be able to give me an answer. But again, if I said take that guitar over to there, I can trust the robot because we've already done code that'll get that from point A to point B.
Right.
We haven't gotten from point A to point B ever in global warming or world hunger or whatever, because we haven't solved those problems. So ChatGPT shouldn't be able to figure those out at this state.
At this state.
Yeah. And I don't know if it'll ever be at that state.
Well,
because
I just leave you with this thought. The first Terminator came to kill Connor. John Connor.
I would be back.
He came back later on to protect him because he was reprogrammed differently later on.
Right.
Okay? Had the first one succeeded, the second one never would have worked.
Right. All right. Nice. Okay. I got nothing else. Do you?
I just had Zuckerberg. I can't go without a Zuck.
Ahead.
We talked about he's getting all this advertising dollars?
Sure.
The last time we talked about it, because he added AI to his
Facebook Meta.
To the Meta experience. So he's getting more ad revenue because there were more users. Okay. Turns out there's a glitch in the system and he was overcharging advertisers.
Really? Ooh.
Question is, by how transparent is this company? Some charge that he doubled it. So apparently they pay like a contract amount.
Yeah.
And they just bill. Yeah. The advertisers are mad because they were slow with their response. You know, they said, we'll give you the money back. They didn't even acknowledge it. The advertisers had to go in and say, hey,
repeat, yeah.
Right, and that really annoyed them. So due to a miscalculation for ad campaigns, it caused the ad dollars to be spent even faster.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks. Facebook's going to have to figure it out. But I think that's just an honest mistake.
Well, I think their point was mistake, but they're not that they didn't own up to it, but you had to go to them and say, hey, by the way, you have a mistake. Oh, okay, we'll get back to you on it. Or they gave them like the standard, you'll get your refund in the mail kind of thing. Some of these small businesses or small companies, they can really get screwed if you take double their ad revenue.
Oh, yeah. They're especially if you're
out of money.
Small company.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're good then.
Okay.
So the only things we have to promote video-wise, so we have last week's podcast 43. So yeah, you're right. It was 44, which is on Spotify as well. And then Wednesday was the last case of Benjamin Fox. Do you know who Benjamin Fox is? Is that based on a real person? A story? Benjamin Fox, Lovecraftian? Maybe it's a Lovecraftian story.
I don't know it.
I don't know Lovecraft
I know Benjamin
too well.
Button, the guy who goes in reverse, ages in reverse.
Because I tried looking it up and see this story. It's a cool story, the game, but I thought it was based on another, like a show or a book. Because there's no backstory to how he gets his Lovecraftian.
It's Benedict Fox.
No, Benedict.
You said Benjamin. Benedict Fox. Benedict Never Fox. Heard of it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was based on that. And then the other one, which came out yesterday, was the Redfall video talk about a flop. The game did so poorly. This was supposed to be our big. When I was younger, there was a game called Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, I remember
which
that.
Was very, very popular. And then these guys basically tried to do a vampire version, and it's not doing well. Overwhelmingly negative. I didn't think it was that bad.
How was the Star Wars game doing?
It had the rough launch. They did their first patch of bug fixes. I'm still trying to finish that game up, plat it by tonight, hopefully. And then Monday we finish that one up. So very good. Very good.
Oh, you
I like the story and stuff. I'm not even going to tell you what I did. It would be an accolade that you go, holy man, why would you do that? But ideally, I reached out to another YouTuber that is a completionist. So hopefully he does the podcast one of these days.
What does that mean? He finishes the game?
Yeah, so that's what I do. It's called platting a game. Platting means on PlayStation.
Platting? Platting?
Platting. It's short for platinuming.
Oh.
So when you get when you finish a game and get all the achievements,
gotcha.
It's called platting because it gives you a platinum trophy.
Oh.
So I have quite a few plats. But that's where it comes from. So a completionist. And this kid, I won't say his name because if he doesn't do the podcast. But
yeah, don't do that.
He completes some games, Mom, that, it would take me 50 years to complete. Like, I just don't have the attention span, and he does it. I'm like, oh, my God.
Autistic?
I don't think so, but I think some people just love completing games like that. I don't have that in me. Some games I like, but...
He hasn't showered in 5 years.
Hey, let's not get into a potential podcast guest.
You can edit it out.
I'm leaving it in. I need him to know. But something like Benedict Fox or Jedi Fallen Order, I'll plat because those are fun plats. And a fun plat is like, I'll just get all like the main stuff, do all the upgrades. A hard plat is like, get 1 million kills.
Oh, wow.
It's like, that's nuts to me. There's only been one game that's been a rough platinum that I was like, I bit off way more than I could chew.
Should I tell your listeners that a few times I've had to say, Christopher, did you shower today?
That's never happened. 0 times. 0 times. I was watching Christina Pajitsky on Tom Segura's wife on Your Mom's House was talking about how the biggest losers are video gamers, and Tom's been doing the VR with the military sims. And I was like, they're naming. He has the. I'm gonna call out Tom Segura here. He's got the crappy version of the Oculus, which is like the battery powered one. I gotta show him the real stuff.
The new ones.
The real good stuff.
You think somebody could spring for some for him?
Yeah, well, he takes his on the road.
Oh.
Tom, I have to side with Christina on that one. If you're taking on the road, and that's coming from a gaming YouTuber.
And are we talking real batteries, or you plug it in to charge it?
I think you plug it in to charge it.
Okay,
I don't believe.
Say,
those are the realest shitty
put
ones.
The double A's.
The one that they give kids, that's like the slideshow. Mom, it's moving.
The viewfinder. Yeah. Click, click, click. Oh my God.
Yeah, again, I haven't done VR in a while. There's no games for it, so I don't know what he's playing. But, I don't know. Something. I can show you the world.
Yeah, right.
All right, but we'll end it there. The only things that we have to promote, as I said, all these, as well as social media, promo code, stream links down below, and then Discord down below for questions. We didn't have any questions this week. We'd like to get some more questions. Michael, tell your fraternity.
We'll get them next week after my comments on the transgender.
God, yeah, we'll get some shit for that one. But that's pretty much it, guys.
Edit it out.
No.
Yes.
No, we don't edit it out. We take him on the chin, so when Steve Bannon calls us and goes, "Hey, we really like what you're saying."
No, it's gonna be the opposite. Don't go near that woman.
Don't go.
She's toxic.
Blacklisted.
She's not running for any office. She's toxic.
All right, you guys have a good one, and we will see you at 45.